Welcome to a brief tutorial on how to play Dead Man's Draw, the simplified version for kids. Before we get started, what you need to do is make sure your neoprene mats are nicely laid out. Next, you need to take out all of your hero cards from the deck. Those are these cards here. These will make the game nice and complex. However, if you're introducing this game to a child or a beginner, then I strongly suggest you take them out because they can be quite complicated. So get rid of those first. That will leave you with your base suits. So the base suits go all the way from 2, and most of them go all the way up to 7, and with the exception of the mermaid card, which goes up to 9. This one here. So once you've shuffled your cards, you need to take out the 2 cards. So go through all of the cards and take out the 2s. These will go in your discard pile. Now, discard pile is useful because the map card, which is this one here, can only be played if we have a discard pile. So get out all of your 2s. Take out all your 2s. There we go. There's a few. One more left. Mermaid and a kraken. Okay. Alright, once you have done that, you need to create 2 piles of cards. So this will be your draw pile. Your draw pile is the most important part of the game. Next, you will have your discard pile. Now your discard pile can just go anywhere beside it. Now make sure you've got plenty of room to draw your cards from. You can leave your discard pile anywhere as long as it's not obstructing your draw pile. Okay, so that's my discard pile there. I took the draw pile now. Now before I go into the suits, I just want to quickly say that the aim of the game is to draw as many cards as you can and get the highest number. So at the end of the game, you would add up all of the top cards and see which player has the highest score. So what you need to do is take your draw deck here, and you need to just start drawing out the cards. And so I've got a chest there, I've got a cannon and a chest. Okay, so I'm bust because I have 2 of the same card. So that's the trick. It's all about risk and reward, and it also includes some strategy with all the extra cards that you've got that you can use later on, and I will show you how to do that. So I'm bust. So that means that these cards go into the discard pile, and just shuffle those up real quick so that you cannot cheat and just withdraw from the discard pile and get one of your best cards out that you just got busted with. So let's do another draw. So there's a chest there. See the future. Okay, so see the future means you can have a look at the top 3 cards in your deck, which as you can see are see the future cards for me, so I wouldn't take from there. I would take these back and lay them down on my deck there, and as you can see I've just turned this the other way for shooting purposes for this video. So put the cards onto your sets there, and now it's time for you to give your student or child the deck themselves. So let them draw. Okay, so I've got a sword. Now the sword is very useful because a sword lets you steal another player's card. So if, this would be your deck over here, if you have cards, encourage the player to take a card using the sword. Now, this is a very important card, and it's very useful later on. Now if a player takes your card, they may put that card into play immediately, and when they do that, it allows them to check the deck just the same as if they were playing a See the Future card. So as you can see, there's a 6 there, there's a See the Future card, And there's another See the Future card there. Okay, so the player would take the 6 because they know that if they took the See the Future card, they'll be bust. So the player would take their cards back and put them out like that. Then it's your turn again. So as I go along, hopefully we'll go through some of these cards and I'll explain a little bit more about what they do as I draw them. So next card, Kraken. Alright, so Kraken is actually a card that forces the player to draw 2 cards at once. So you cannot get around this one. Kraken has to be played. So as soon as you draw a Kraken, you need to take out 1, 2 like that, and as you can see, that is a high risk card because it's busted me there. So these cards go into the discard pile. Shuffle them again. Now, when you're playing this game with children, I strongly suggest you gradually introduce the uses of all the cards. It's not a good idea to introduce them all at once because these cards are actually quite strategic and the game might feel a little bit overwhelming at first if you introduce all of them. So I'm going to pass the deck over to the student, and here we go. There's a See the Future card. I'm going to quickly shuffle that up real quick because those cards keep coming back. Okay, so here's a mermaid. A player is allowed to shuffle anytime before they play the See the Future card. Okay, so I had a look and I can see there's another See the Future card there, so I'm not going to draw that. I'm going to put the mermaid out and the See the Future card. So as you can see, I had a 3 here before and I want to put the 5 on top. So your highest number goes on top. Okay, next. Mermaid. And map. Okay, so what a map does, you're allowed to check inside the discard pile. Now, if you're not using a hero card, you just have to take one randomly out. And the player has to play it regardless. Okay, so here we go. I got a sword. So I will choose See the Future. So I stole their number 5. And that means I can play with the cards immediately. So let's have a look. We've got a mermaid, a map, and another map. Okay, so I wouldn't play that. I would take these cards back, place them on my deck there, and continue playing. So, just turn this around. Okay. So let's have a look at what the other cards do. So I'm just going to pull these out of the deck real quick and give you an idea of what they do. First, I'm going to talk about the treasure chest. So treasure chests only work if you have a treasure chest and a key. So if you have these 2 cards in play and you've been playing continuously and you've got a lot of cards out, and you put them all out like that. So I've got 5 cards there. If you choose to collect those cards, you get to take out 5 cards from the discard pile. So I'll put these cards back onto my deck, and then I will be able to take 5 random cards. Now, the 5 random cards don't need to be put into direct play, which means that you won't go bust regardless of what cards you get. This is technically just a reward, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then turn those over and just collect them immediately without even having to worry about whether you go bust or not. Okay, so I'll just put those cards away. Right. Next card I want to talk about is this fella over here, which is the cannon. Now, if you draw a cannon, you can actually shoot off the first top card of your opponent's deck. So for the sake of the tutorial, I'm just going to put 2 maps down on here. So say your player over here has drawn 2 cards, and they've got a 3 and a 6 over here. You shoot off the top card, so you shoot off the most powerful one. Discard that immediately. Okay, the next card I want to talk about is the hook. Now, the hook is probably the most strategic card because it allows you to take a card from your own deck and put it into play. So for example, if I had drawn a chest earlier, it would be a good idea for me to draw my own key. So if I drew my own key, I would be able to collect the treasure there and get 4 cards from the discard pile. So this is probably the most strategic card in the game, and it's very useful, and you should always encourage your players to use it wisely because it can turn a game around completely. The other card I'd like to talk about is the anchor. Alright, so an anchor is only really useful when you have done a long draw and you need to secure your cards. So let's just say I drew a hook, a cannon, kraken, and these 2 cards that it forced me to play. Alright, so I've got a hook, a cannon, kraken, and a mermaid, and see the future. Now, that's actually a pretty good draw. So you'd really want to either collect on this, but if you drew a see the future card and you had the opportunity to check the top 3 cards of your deck, then I'm going to have a look, and there's a mermaid, and there's a cannon, and then here we go, here's your anchor. Alright, so if you put an anchor there, that would mean that any card after this that you draw, even if it busts you, you will still keep the row of cards that you've already drawn. So for example, if I drew a cannon and I put it down there, the anchor and all the other cards are secure. The cards that come after it, the cannon, that would go into the discard pile. So your anchor allows you to save the cards that you've drawn. So this is a very useful card, and certainly for beginners, encourage them to use the anchor card because it will help them to feel more of a sense of accomplishment if they gradually build up their cards. So generally speaking, you really want to just gradually introduce what these cards do. Players are going to be very interested in what each one of them does. I strongly suggest you start off with the sword and the see the future card, the anchor, and the mermaid, because these are all very easy to play. To begin with, you can skip the kraken, the treasure, and the hook, because obviously the hook is probably the most difficult card to understand because it requires more thought and more strategy for children to use it properly. The most important thing is just to keep an eye out and guide your students on how not to get bust. And later on, when you feel like they're ready, you can introduce the hero cards. You can make the game brutal. You can make the game old. You can make the game poncy. You can make the game mustachioid. You can make the game stabby. You can make the game macho. You can make the game rank. You can make the game traveler. I hope you get as much fun out of the game as I have, and have a ruddy bloody good time.